workshop, we are learning to carve foam stamps and creating images with different printing techniques. The objectives of the workshop is to learn the basics of creating a stamp with foam, and then we're going to learn 2 different printing techniques, and then we can discuss on how you can apply that to your own practice. The target audience for this workshop is beginners, obviously primarily you guys, but there's no prior knowledge needed to attend this workshop. We're going to start with some important practitioner information. These were like the 3 main books I've used when planning out this workshop. I have one of them with me now, which you are more than welcome to look through. So there we go. But yeah, if you wanted any more information, I can email you the pages from these books that I would really recommend reading as well. Like if you wanted to take this workshop further, I would recommend looking through these. Yeah, this is just an example from one of the books as well, which is we're talking about patterns, because one of the patterns we're going to learn is a continuous pattern, like a continuous repeat pattern, and then there's different ways to change the pattern, so like a single repeat and then vertical and horizontal repeat. There's just lots of information in these books where in this workshop you'll learn the basics, and then if you wanted you could take it further and try and experiment more. For historical research, I looked at MC Escher and William Morris. The MC Escher, he uses a lot of pattern in his own work. These are wood block curting, and then these tile designs, and then obviously William Morris has the famous wallpaper pattern. Someone else I looked at for historical research was Wedgwood, because they use a lot of pattern in their ceramic design. So it's just how you can apply pattern in your own work. Something that really interested me about stamps in general is these, I don't know how to say that, ikai stamps, which are the stamps that you find in Japanese train stations. The Japanese government did this to encourage young people to use trains. So you would go to a train station and they all have different designs, and you could stamp your notebook and things like that. So I just think it's a really interesting way to use stamping, and obviously the government have used this to encourage travelling by train. So yeah, so back to the books that I was talking about earlier. These are just some good examples. Stephen Fowler, this is a collaborative piece he did, which is Exquisite Corpse, where someone does the head, someone else does the body, and then somebody else does the legs. Again, these are repeat patterns, and then he is stamped into some of his own illustrations. It's just thinking about how we're gonna make these stamps and learn how to make these patterns, but how you could use them after.
Where they sit.
Yeah, so how you could use them in your own practice, and because there's just so many possibilities. It's just I think it's just important to sit down and think about what you would like to gain from this workshop. Again, this is more context. He also teaches you how to do different patterns but there's also stamping onto maps, and I brought up some maps in today that we can have little bits we could play with as well if you wanted to, and also stamp directly onto fabric, which is good. These stamps that I brought in, they are designed for paper, but you can use them on fabric too. They're so careful with your clothes, they might stain. So yeah, so the equipment you'll need: pens, pencils, craft knives, scissors, stamp pads, paper, glue, and templates. I provided all of these so you don't have to worry. The templates are just simple designs, but in case you didn't have any ideas of what you wanted to do, I didn't want you to feel stuck and not utilize the time, so I've made some templates. These are how I've applied stamps previously in my own work. So these are just short narrative pieces about a trip to Llandudno. Yeah, and obviously, as you can see, I've used lots of different colour as well in the illustrations, and then they're on different sort of zines. This is on a map fold zine, and things like that. I've also applied pattern in my own work as well. So I made these stamps, and I played around with colour and the layout, and then I moved that onto the create a sock brief. So that's how I used the stamp making a pattern design in my own work. So the expected outcomes for this workshop will be a physical stamp. So you'll have like the physical thing, and then these are examples from the practice I did. So there was 3 of us, so we did like a collaborative. So I did the stem, my friend did the leaf, and then my other friend did the flower. So we like did some single stamping, some continuous stamping, some repeat stamping, and then we collaborated all together. We don't have to do that today, but it is just an idea if you wanted to. It just depends on like how much time we have. But yeah, so there we go. Obviously we've talked about like what we're going to do with the stamps, but I'm going to show you how to make a stamp now. It's really easy. One of the good things about using foam to make a stamp rather than lino is that you don't need like the special lino equipment. It's much easier to cut in. You can, yeah, so you can literally just use scissors or like a pen knife. So it's like much easier like material to like use. But yeah, so when creating a stamp, what I personally do is just draw directly onto the stamp, like my design. So I'm going to do a bit of text as well, so I can show you like how you would need to like place it if you were doing text, because obviously when you do text, the way it prints, it will print backwards. So you need to like lay it out properly. So we'll use the soft foam to print onto, and we'll glue it onto the harder foam. This is to like basically so it all stays together, and you know we don't get our fingers messy. So yeah,
it's the base one.
Yeah, it's the base. So yeah, so when I make stamps, I just draw literally directly onto the foam itself. One of the good things about the foam as well versus lino is if I cut it out one way, my text obviously this will be backwards, but I could just, because I've cut it out completely, I could just flip it when I glue it onto the harder foam. You don't have to think too much about like things like that. So yeah, for this I'll just use scissors to cut it out. If you were using the template, I would just put the template directly onto the foam and then draw around the template. So that's how the templates can be used. The craft knives are here in case you wanted to like cut inside, like obviously where you can't get with the scissors. So that's the craft knife. It is a little bit tricky, but that's what the craft knife is there for. I would recommend using mostly scissors for it, but there we go, that's how you can use the craft knife. And then after they're all glued out, I will I will glue them onto my mount board. And like when I need to remember when gluing them, like this is how they'll print out. So this is text, so it has to be backwards. Okay, so once I've done that, you don't have to do this, but I just find it a lot easier. I'll just cut the mount board down to size. It doesn't have to be perfect like when you cut the mount board, because that obviously is the bit that won't be printed, so like it doesn't have to be perfect. Yeah, so like that's what our physical stamp will look like. And then after we've made the physical stamps, we can print them, and then I will show you like the 2 different printing patterns. I think we'll start just by making the stamps first. So just get the ink and then completely saturate the foam. These ink pads in particular are really good. They're like, so you don't really have to like worry too much, and then just place it on your paper where you want it to print, an even amount of pressure, and then yeah, have a stamp. So it's up to you guys. We can either do something collaborative and make something collaborative, or if you have your own ideas, you are more than welcome to like create those. I've got plenty, there's like so much foam, like so you can make them as big as you want or as small as you want, like there's no limitations. But yeah, so if you didn't have any ideas, what I was going to suggest doing is we do like a little flower pattern, so we could have different stems and different leaves, and then kind of like mix and match and create like a pattern with those. But again, if you had something in mind, that is fine too. So yeah. And also if you needed some inspiration, I would recommend looking through that as well. It's really, yeah. But yes. So yeah, the objectives of the workshop is to make a stamp, and then I was going to teach you how to do 2 patterns with the stamp. So I haven't shown like how to do the patterns yet. We're just making the stamps. Basically how I have used it in my own work, which these ones were just like narrative, and then this is like how I use pattern in my own work as well. So the expected outcomes for this workshop are the physical stamp, and then the different patterns. This was a collab, like this was my practice with my friends, where I made the stem, my friend made the leaf, and my other friend made the flower. So we just did some single stamping and then some continuous and repeat stamping, and then we collaborated at the end. If you don't have any ideas, there are some templates here that you can use. All you have to do with the soft foam is simply cut with scissors. I have bought all of the equipment here. That's one of like the benefits of using foam rather than lino, is that you can just literally just cut into it because it's so soft. You don't have to. The way I do it is just like literally just draw onto the foam. But yeah, I think if you feel more comfortable drawing onto paper first and then onto the foam, that is fine too. I would recommend your designs being more graphical and simple because of the nature of foam, like details and stuff. You can get small details with the knife, but it's quite difficult because the foam is like a bit rippy, and it's just the nature of the material basically. So yeah, this is the one I like just made. So yeah, if you are making text, because of the way it prints, it will have to be back to front, left to right. So because it will print that way. That is just something to keep in mind when making text.
Good. Let's make it mirror form here.
Objectives of the workshop are to create a foam stamp, and then we're going to learn 2 different printing techniques, like pattern making techniques, sorry, not printing. So yeah, you'll just learn how to make a stamp, and then after we've made all the stamps, we can go through the 2 different printing techniques. I brought in a book that you might find really helpful. They were really, like these 3 books that I've listed here were really helpful when planning my workshop, and if you wanted I can email you the pages that I have listed here. For historical research, I looked into like MC Escher and William Morris with the wallpaper designs. Obviously they're all really heavy pattern based, and then there's Wedgwood as well, which you can see all of the patterns in the ceramics. That one of the things that really interests me about stamps is like all the things it can be used for. One of the things I'm particularly interested in is like the Ikai stamp, which is the stamps that are in Japanese train stations. So obviously the Japanese government did this to encourage tourism. So you get to this train station, they all have different designs, and then you can like stamp your scrapbook or your like notebook and like just collect them. Yeah, and these are just the different styles of patterns that we'll go through after we've made our stamps, and this is just like how it's applied. Obviously you can see that this stamp was applied to like fabric to make this like dotty polka dot suit. These are all the equipment that we'll need, and then this is just how I have put stamps into my own work. So there's like the narrative, and then obviously the pattern base here, which I used for the designer soccer competition. The expected outcomes for this workshop were are a physical stamp, and then just like to learn how to do these patterns. These are the example from my practice where we actually collaborated. So I did the stem, my friend did the leaf, and my other friend did the flowers. We just did some single stamping here, and then we did some continuous stamping, repeat stamping, and then at the end we like collaborated all together. So to make a stamp, it's really easy because we're using foam rather than something like lino, it's like really easy to like cut into. So what I do normally is just draw directly onto the foam. So, and then just use scissors to cut it out. And remember, when printing text, you should glue them onto the foam board back to front because of how it'll like right to left, not left to right. Oh, you can put the foam board down. I think it's easier to put the foam board down after you put your stamps on. It doesn't have to be super neat because this isn't getting printed, it's basically just to hold them together. So then just use these ink and completely saturate the foam. Then just place it on our paper and distribute it even weight, and then yeah, it's our print.
While everyone's getting on with that, would you mind just talking through that position of it not as print but as pattern? Could you talk a bit more around that? That's really fascinating. How are you seeing that?
Oh well, I think basically because the stamps are the physical stamps themselves are permanent, and you can. I feel like because of the nature of the stamps themselves, they can be rotated and like applied again and again with different colours, just because of like how permanent they are. That's one of the good things about stamps and like printing in general, like lino printing and stuff. So it's easy. I don't know if easy is the right word. Convenient. You're very capable of creating these patterns because of the nature of the stamp itself, because it can just be like printed and taken up, rotated and printed again and again, and it just allows for like opportunity to print. And depending on what it is, some of the two prints that we're going to do today are one of them is just a random repeat. There's a really great example in here. So you quite literally just pick it up and place it again and again and again. These are some of the examples in here actually. I did a practice workshop with my parents at the weekend who have not printed before, so that was like, actually loads of fun. We did, Exquisite Corpse? So we did our original one first, it's just a single print, and then we did random repeat, like random prints. And obviously before these were like legs, but I feel like now that we did the random printing, there could be something different. There's like opportunity for them to do something different. Like this was the body as well, and then these were the continuous repeats. So just printing, rotating the print, printing again, and then rotating the print again. The stamp again to create a pattern. And obviously, again, like with the trousers, because of the way it was printed, really could turn into something else. I think that's one of the interesting things about it. So, yeah, and then we also practiced printing onto different mediums, like this map. So, yeah. And also, something I would recommend saying as well, especially because of the inks, because of foam like absorbs in a way that lino doesn't. So if you wanted to wipe it clean, it wouldn't really, like if you went for black first, I wouldn't use yellow after, because it holds on to the black for like a really long time, even if you wipe it away. So always lightest to darkest.
So Becky, if I want to cut this,
Yes. Okay, I would literally just, if you, let's see. How did you want it cut? Did you want just the text out there, or did you want the text removed?
I want the text.
Oh, but I would literally just cut around it with scissors, and then in the middle bits, I got craft knives, and then I'll go take all this in, so you can get the. Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. Once we all have stamps, we'll we'll do some random pattern, like random repeats. So I'll go around there actually. So random repeats are quite literally how it sounds. So you'll just like place your stamp and then pick it up again, stamp it somewhere else, and literally just randomly stamp it to make a pattern. You don't have to re-ink every time, and it creates these like nice ghost sort of inks. But yeah, so this is the nature of like random repeats. And then obviously, if you guys wanted to collab together, you could like, Henry, can you pass me your smiley face, please? Thank you. So you could like collaborate together with the random repeats, which I think would be like quite interesting. And just, yeah, so quite literally just stamp it, pick it up, and then randomly place it. Like, don't think about where it's going to go, just print. So yeah, that's the first printing technique, which is the pattern, sorry, which is random repeats. So, okay, that one.
So good.
So, what you have to do is place the stamp down, and then lift it up, and then next to it you could either like flip it, and then stamp again, and then flip it again, and it just creates a repeat pattern. So I think like, and then obviously like if you have time, you can add like different stamps to it, but that's like the base of your repeat pattern.